Boss Rush 780 day 3. So this one's a decent day, but it's not a super farmable one. It's the Shade of Aran first fight, which we last had on 540 day 1, and then we also had it just before that twice on the 500 week. So the last video I had for it was 500 day 5, because I didn't make a video on the 540 run. But the comp we used back then still works today, so that was a Balinda Medivh Malchezaar strategy with bouncing. For your artillery strikes, you can use anyone, but all the bosses that are a follow-up today are red. So you probably want Rogers if you don't have super high artillery. The highest health enemy is Avalanchan with 360 HP. If you have 360 or more artillery strike, then you can use any one of these slots. So Genn and Vwon are probably the best choices if you have high artillery strike, since they're both capable of shooting your own mercenaries, which makes the cleanup a bit smoother. But for your comps here, I've got 4 different ones. So this is the old comp that we used with Medivh. And then I've got 2 Holmes comps where we do a triple freeze on turn 1 if you have a strong enough water elemental and elementary ability to survive an extra hit. You can get a triple freeze. It may be possible with just a double freeze with this comp. And then after you get that double or triple freeze on turn 1, you just follow up with either Balinda Bwonsamdi Varden or Balinda Bwonsamdi Geddon. So you can make your choice of which damage dealer you want to use there. Both of them work fine if they're strong enough. And then the 4th comp is one that Anfindel came up with, and this one is possibly more budget friendly, but you very often lose this additional mercenary on turn 1, so this is just like a throwaway mercenary. I'm using Eudora in that slot because Eudora is an artillery strike merc that might survive, and Eudora has a battle cry to summon a cannon, so it might eat one of those heavy sorrow shots from Shade of Aran. So there's a possibility that you can get through this with 2 artillery strikes alive, but normally this comp ends up with only 1 artillery strike alive at the end, so the odds of hitting that treasure afterwards are reduced. But it is a pretty clean way to kill the boss and can be a little more budget friendly. And it utilizes the Cookie Fish Varden Cold Snap on turn 2 to get your triple freeze, and then you refresh those with Bwonsamdi bounces and repeat that after slowing them with Arfus. And Anfindel also has a video of that. They used Nimsy in this slot, but I think going with Eudora in that slot works a bit better. But I'll link his video as well in the description, and I'll also link the 500 day 5 video that demonstrated this Medivh comp, so you can check that one out as well. But to start with, I'm just going to do this Holmes comp with Balinda and Varden. So we've got Balinda with Water Elemental, Holmes with Paid Up Front, Bwonsamdi with Arena Contender, Varden with Band of Frost. I'm using no equipment on Genn to make the cleanup easier so we don't heal ourselves if we use Frost Dart. And I'm using Ship Spell on Rogers. You can also use Vwon in this slot if you have the high enough artillery strike. And then the Geddon comp is exactly the same as the Varden comp. You're just using Mark of Conflag on Geddon instead of Varden. So let me jump into it with this comp. So I think this positioning here that I've got lined up in the party works pretty well. It's best if you get no attack anomaly on Shade of Aran, because that's the one that's going to get hit by the water elemental. You can also reorganize your party so the water elemental ends up between these two, but then there's a potential for Dirty Tricks to hit it. It's also okay if you lose your Murloc Holmes to a Dirty Tricks, but in my case he typically survives, so this is where your stats come into play. You need a high enough hit points from your water elemental plus your elementary that it can survive that first swing once the shield is broken. So we put elementary here, we swing at the guy on the opposite side, we do a bounce, and this is a frost comp, so I'm going to put some frost weakness, and it'll crit here, so I'll just get that free crit, since this will turn Balinda blue with a 3-speed attack. And if he does use the 3-speed attack before he gets frozen, it almost always hits Bwonsamdi in my experience. There is a possibility he attacks someone else there. And after they're all frozen, we just bring out Balinda, Varden, Bwonsamdi. And since I have enough damage on my Band of Frost, And I also have enough hit points on my water elemental. I like to just swing with my elementals and get that Varden ramp going as much as possible. But you can save these water elementals to use when they unfreeze. So I'm not sure which one's going to end up working out best for most people, but you do have those different options. And I like to just do a flurry, because this passive here is going to make this 5-speed attack turn Varden into a fighter, and then we get more crits that way. And I'm just going to bounce here to refresh the freezes. But since I know I have enough damage, I just like to swing with these elementals and get that damage going. And I like to focus damage on Aran, because he is the most dangerous. So it's also good to put your Bwonsamdi in this slot instead, because next turn, when we run out of bounces, you're going to want your Bwonsamdi opposite the Dirty Tricks guy, rather than your Varden. So you could do either of these here. This one crits and gives frost weakness if you have a red enemy. This one would turn Balinda red, but it gets the ramp from Varden, so you could go either way with that. I'm going to go ahead and swing with these just to get my ramp, since I already know I have enough damage. I'm just going to do another flurry here. So this is very similar to the gameplay you have with Geddon. You would just save all your water elementals with Geddon, since you're not getting frost ramp with them, and you'd just be doing Inferno combos on these turns instead. So I'm not going to demonstrate the Geddon comp, because it's pretty much identical gameplay, and we've seen plenty of Geddon runs. But you do need a pretty strong Geddon. I found that for most of these runs, if your Inferno damage is about half of the MBR level, then that's about the right amount of damage to have to make the runs easy. So we're at 780, so that would be 390. So if you have about 390 damage on Geddon, obviously more is better. It should make the runs pretty easy. So I'm just going to get some more Frost Ramp here. So I do have to keep in mind, if I swing with these and I kill them off, it will change my positioning here, so a Dirty Tricks could hit my Varden as well if I shift them over by letting this elemental die, and I'll also have one fewer freeze available. I'm going to go ahead and shoot with this to turn Bwonsamdi green and get a free crit there. I'm going to shoot with the flurry, or actually let me wait on the flurry, and we'll swing here. And I'm fine with these shifting over, because my shadow anomaly, as you can see here, is not too high. So if I get a Dirty Tricks that hits Varden, it's not going to cause any problems for me. And I also don't really care about the extra freeze. I also have the option of an Ice Lance next turn if I want it. So we'll just get the ramp and get more damage on this flurry and this Frostburn here. But you can save these if you want the extra freezes. Alright, so I've got 2 5-speeds and a 9-speed. So we're going to do a bounce, and I might be able to get a cold snap here. Let's see. So this is basically like a do-nothing attack. It just does 20 damage or turns somebody red. So I don't have to worry about that. This would hit highest attack, so that would either be the Water Elemental or Balinda if I kill the Water Elemental off. Let's see, 400 plus... So this would be able to kill something. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go here, and then we'll cold snap, and I'm going to freeze this guy first. So this should freeze this, and then we'll cold snap. And this will attack from Aran will go off, but it doesn't really do anything. Okay, so now we need to think about killing off our non-artillery strikes. So I'm going to bring out Varden, Balinda, and I'm going to do Holmes first. Let's put Balinda over here. So I'm putting the Water Elemental on the edge, so I can put a shield on it, and then if I want to freeze with it, it won't like do the extra attack. So we're just going to shield that elemental, and we have an extra freeze available next turn. 565 should be fine. Actually, I would rather kill this guy because this red guy doesn't ever swing, so he'll just sit around and like shoot ranged attacks at me or basically do nothing. I'd kind of rather kill this guy. So let's shoot at that instead. I don't want to use this. I could Ice Lance just to finish that off. Then I don't have that extra freeze available. But I think that's fine. Let's see, so this won't change my color, so it won't crit. So we'll just do that Ice Lance. Okay, and these check your weapons will just hit the water elemental for now. So I'm going to do nothing with Holmes. And I'm going to shoot Holmes with Balinda. I could swing there instead to break the shield. Either way works. Doesn't really matter. So let me swing there. And then I'll shoot at Varden. And we'll shoot our own Bwonsamdi as well. So my Genn has higher attack than my Balinda, so I'm going to bring out Rogers instead. Because then if I let a check your weapons happen after this elemental's dead, it'll hit Balinda instead of my artillery strike mercenary. I'm just going to freeze that, and we'll shoot here. Here. I could use this on the water elemental, but there's no reason to. Healing it won't matter, and it would slow it since I have Ship's Bell on. Okay, so this is basically a do-nothing. So we're going to kill off our Bwonsamdi and shoot our Balinda. And I guess I can just shoot this Tactician here. Or I could wait. I'll just wait. I'll do a firing position instead. Okay, and let me put Balinda in the middle in case of a dirty tricks. Alright, so that will finish Balinda. And then that should take care of that guy. So that's going to hit my Genn, so that should be fine. There's different lines of play I could take here, but this one will work. There's probably a way where I can like avoid the damage on my artillery strike mercenaries, but it doesn't really matter. Alright, so then you just need to hit your artillery strike, and my luck's not with me today. But that's how the comp works, you just hit artillery strike afterwards. And the Geddon comp is exactly the same thing, so you just are on a clock to kill them with Infernos and then try to kill off your own mercenaries. I think the cleanup works a bit better when you have that frost ramp, since this one doesn't really get time to ramp since you're always activating fire combos. So it makes the cleanup a little bit messier and more difficult to work out. The Medivh comp is demonstrated in that 500 Day 5 video, so I'll link that down in the description. But the comp for that one is Balinda with Lesser Water Elemental, Medivh with Unstable Runes, Arena Contender on Bwon, Parrying Blade on Malchezaar, and I like no equipment on Genn, but you could run the healing equipment if you find that easier. I just like this for the cleanup. And then Ship's Bell on Rogers, but again, you could use kind of anything there, and you could also swap out this with a different mercenary if you don't need the blue artillery strike. And then this other comp here is the one that Anfindel had, and I'll link his video in the description as well. In his run, he used a Nimsy, but I replaced that with a Eudora here. So there's a chance that you could have Eudora survive, but in my experience, Eudora usually doesn't survive. Turn 1, it's just a possibility to maybe get 2 artillery strikes at the end. But I'm using primed armaments on Eudora for that extra cannon to soak hits from a possible heavy sorrow cast on turn 1. Downward Dog on Arfus. Arena Contender on Bwon. Appetizers on Cookie. Band of Frost on Varden, and obviously the more you have here, the more damage you'll do, so get those ranks up because that's an important one. You also need your Cold Snap to do enough to at least kill the Cookie Fish, so I think that's like 15. and then Rogers with Ship Spell. And again, you could replace Rogers with whatever Artillery Strike Mercenary if you don't need those crits for the follow-up bosses to do 360 to Avalanchan. So I'll go ahead and demonstrate this one. Even though Anfindel already has the video on it, I do have the slight variation here with Eudora. So I'll go ahead and show that as well. So the thing with Eudora is it doesn't line up super well with these enemy abilities and all of these color change passives. So if you get a Heavy Sorrow from Shade of Aran, it just hits random targets, so you want as many things in play as possible. But the problem is that there's a lot of times, so we did get it here. So we have Heavy Sorrow, it's going to hit random things, so you want these extra cannons in play, but the Check Your Weapons hits highest attack, so it's going to hit my Eudora. So if I do a swing with our Arfus here to make sure that Arfus dies, then that's going to slow this down to 9 speed, which makes this passive turn the middle guy into a caster. So then you get this Check Your Weapons damage in blue damage coming at your Eudora. So if I use this cannon, that's 7 speed, so Eudora will become red, and you'll get crit by this on your Eudora every time. So if you get this lineup of abilities here, you just have to pass with your Eudora, which is unfortunate. You could hold back your Arfus, but then there's a chance Arfus doesn't die, depending on what happens here. And you really want your Arfus to die. So in this case here, I just pass with Eudora, swing with Arfus, and do a bounce, and we just hope for the best. Most likely my Eudora is going to die, but there is a chance that Eudora survives here. Okay, we didn't get the high roll and have everything hit Bwonsamdi, so we lost the Eudora, but that just means that we only have a 50% chance to hit Artillery Strike at the end. So it's still manageable, you can still beat it. But from here, you basically have them locked out with freezes every other turn. So you just do Fish, Snap, Bounce on these even turns. And they're always too slow to get anything casted before we freeze them. And then in between, we just do a Bleed with Cookie, a Flurry with Varden, and Shoot with Bwonsamdi, and then we just repeat. So Fish, Snap, Bounce, and then Bleed, Flurry, Shoot. And I like to use the 2-speed with Bwonsamdi because it turns him green, so he gets crits on these blues. So just do those 5 speeds, and then we'll get a crit. And I like to target Aran because he's the most dangerous with that Heavy Sorrow ability. Okay, so Fish, Snap, Bounce. And this is why this comp does work quite well, because you just keep them locked out and while ramping. But unfortunately, it makes it really difficult to keep a second Artillery Strike alive. And if you try to put out Cookie or Varden or Rogers or someone on turn 1, they usually don't survive as well. So I haven't really found any improvements to ensure you can end with 2 Artillery Strikes. So again, Bleed, Flurry, Shoot. And then Fish, Snap, Bounce. And by alternating like this and letting them unfreeze instead of just chaining the bounces, you get to drag your bounces out longer, so you keep them incapacitated for longer. It just gives you more time to ramp your frost damage and everything. Now when you start doing the cleanup, you have to be a little bit careful that you're putting all these bleeds on. You can skip the bleeds if you don't need them, and you don't want to worry about those bleeds. But it does contribute some extra damage, and it scales pretty well from those repeat casts if you have some points in the bleed. So Bleed, Flurry, and I'm gonna shoot here now. Actually, shoot at this guy. I would actually like this middle one to be the one that survives, but we don't really get to choose. Okay, the reason I like the middle one is that this one has a melee attack with this Assassin's Blade ability. so it's a bit better if the other one's the one that's the last alive, but since you have the random attacks, you can't control it too well. So I'm just going to make a fish here, and I could freeze this, but I'm going to let it hit me, and we're going to start shooting our own mercenaries here. So I'm going to shoot at Cookie. Oh, I should have shot at Bwonsamdi because when that shifted over from the fish, it would have killed my Cookie anyway. That's fine. So I don't want this to be able to hit my Roger, so I'm going to freeze this cast just in case. And we only need to kill off one of these guys. Oh, actually, I'm not going to freeze it. I'm going to deal a Vanity it. And then that'll hit for 209. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, yeah, I'm still going to deal a Vanity. So I can kill this freely now, and the fish will preserve the fight, so I can take my time to kill off the other guys. So I'm just going to do some damage there. I could also swing. And then I don't want to use either of these because I don't want to kill the fish, and I don't want to freeze because I want Bwonsamdi to get hit. So we'll just go with this. I'm just going to try to kill this off, and then we'll try to kill off our last extra mercenary next turn. So I'm going to freeze that. And I guess I'll go ahead and finish the Bwonsamdi here. And then I'll swing. Yeah, that should be fine. And this Bwonsamdi death will also refresh my Ice Lance here, so I can guaranteed freeze this next turn as well. I should have just flurried there, but whatever. Okay, and now you have your 50% chance with the artillery strike, so let's hope that we're luckier this time. Oh, never lucky. So yeah, just hit your artillery strikes. I already hit one earlier, so I'm not going to keep running this just to hit an artillery strike and show the explosions. But those are the different comps, and I'll put the links for the Medivh comp, as well as the Anfindel version of this comp that he came up with here in the description. Good luck on your run.